Just how exactly do you win in Hearts of Iron 4? See, I thought I answered this question a year ago when I released this video, but looking back on it now, I realized I left out something very important. As a new hoi4 player, trying to learn every little detail and feature of this behemoth of a game can be more confusing than educational. After all, this is a grand strategy, there's a lot going on, and the countless tips and tricks found online can easily make you lose sight of the big picture. Today I'll show you that being good at Hearts of Iron 4 is a lot simpler than you think. You get a peek into the thought process of experienced players and learn some good habits that will make you deadly no matter which country you play. What you learn today is displayed on screen now, and I've provided timestamps for your convenience. You also have a cheat sheet that you can download for free for a limited time with a trial account on my Patreon. Let's begin. So the first big question is, what is the ultimate goal in this game? Some of you might say restoring Byzantium or Austro-Hungary, conquering the world as anarchist Spain, or turning Luxembourg into a nuclear superpower. All of this sounds gibberish to anyone who's not involved with hoi4 on a very intimate level. Put simply, in Hearts of Iron 4, you prepare for the war, you fight, and by the end, you hope the world is painted in your country's colors. The game is like a sandbox in the kiddie corner of World War II, so you're done whenever you feel like it, unless you lose or something crashes, of course. Now for the real question. How the hell do you actually win? Well, we are playing a war game, which means that you need an army. And not just any army, but a large, well-equipped and well-trained army. The sooner you build it, the easier it will be for you to flatten everything in your path. Here's a quote you've probably seen but ignored while the game loads your latest disaster save. This is by Admiral Chester Nimitz. It says, "Is the proposed operation likely to succeed? Well, is it practicable in terms of material and supplies?" The translation of this is that you need stuff. Guns, tanks, bullets, bodies. The sooner you get them, the sooner you can raise hell. There are lots of other things you can choose to focus on, but they won't matter unless you have boots on the ground as backup. So how do you build the ultimate World War II army? Well, it's best to start by mastering just 2 or 3 of the game's main systems, because everything else is background noise by comparison. First, we have political power, the most important currency in the game. Now, political power, or PP, haha, has a ton of uses and I won't cover all of them here. But what you need to know is that every country generates a certain amount of PP per day, and once you gather enough of it, you can spend it to expand and improve your forces. National focus trees and the silent workhorse advisor are also great for turbocharging your political power generation. A great army needs enough manpower and equipment that you then put into well-designed divisions, so you never go wrong if you spend your political power towards those goals. If you're lacking in manpower, for example, change your conscription laws. If your division templates, tanks, and planes need improving, appoint chiefs of the army and air force. They will generate experience that will help you do just that. And this XP is also used to develop the latest doctrines and spirits for all 3 branches of your military. Here's a challenge for you. Go and start the game with Iron Man mode turned off. Then open the console and type PP space 500. The task is to go through your political tab and spend the 500 points on the laws and advisors you think will help you build an army fast. You won't have enough points for everything, but that's okay. You have to prioritize, and doing so will give you a great idea of where to spend your points first in your next serious playthrough. Now I'll quickly go over some of the division templates and designs that will do wonders for you in single player. First, we have a basic infantry template that can serve as the backbone of your army. These divisions are great for filling up frontage space and holding the line, although don't expect wonders when you're on the attack. The cheapest effective infantry division you can build involves 9 infantry battalions plus support arty and anti-air. You can add an engineer company if you want, but it will noticeably increase your costs, meaning that you have to divert more of your military factories to produce support equipment rather than something for your offensive divisions. If you're really swimming in infantry and support equipment, you can add an extra infantry battalion and a field hospital, although 9 times out of 10 you'd be better off sticking to the basics. For minor nations that don't have much manpower or industry, you can pump out a similar infantry division but with 5 battalions instead of 9, which will give you 10 combat width, allowing you to fight decently in any terrain. This can also be used as a garrison for ports to deter or at least slow down potential naval invasions. Now, if you want to build infantry that you can attack with, this monstrosity will help you do just that. 13 infantry battalions, we have 3 line arty plus anti-air, support arty, logistics, engineers, and field hospitals. This is okay to build for countries that don't quite have the industrial base and research capabilities of a major, but if you play as one of the big boys, stick to defensive infantry and then focus your offense on producing tanks and planes instead. And talking about tanks, this is what I'd consider a decent tank division that will help you do great against the AI. We have a combat width of 30, so try to use these to attack plains and forest regions where possible, plains preferably. The exact ratio of tanks to motorized infantry depends on your production capacity and the doctrines you choose. In general, try to keep your organization around 40 and you'll do fine. After 1940, you can start phasing out the motorized battalions for mechanized ones. Just remember to do it slowly to avoid making your divisions worse by potentially having missing equipment. You can always check how much is needed and how much equipment you have in your stockpiles by hovering the mouse cursor above the save button. As for the support battalions for your tank divisions, we have anti-air, logistics, field hospitals, engineers, preferably assault engineers if you have the DLC, and a signal company. Now, if you have the Gotterdammerung expansion, you can research special projects, which means that making flame tanks as a support company is the way to go, as it provides great terrain bonuses. So you can substitute the signal company with a flame tank company. Now let's see some tank and plane designs you can use. This is the template for a really cheap flame tank for your support flame tank companies. We have a one-man turret, a flamethrower, Christie suspension, gasoline engine, and 1 tick into the engine upgrade because we're trying to match the speed of our main battle tanks, which is about 8 kilometers per hour. Remember, a division will move at the speed of its slowest unit. You can stick about 2-3 military factories and produce more than enough of these tanks to cover your support company needs. Just remember to designate this design as a flame tank. For your main battle tank, we will build this on a basic medium frame, so you don't need to research the newer ones. You put a 3-man turret, the best medium cannon and radio you've researched, easy maintenance if you've researched the 1939 maintenance company, and have the land XP to do so, 2 heavy machine guns, Christie suspension, gasoline engine, riveted armor, and 6 ticks into engine to make it travel at 8 kilometers per hour. When you get more experienced, you can substitute the medium cannon with a howitzer and focus on encircling infantry, but right now I just want to provide you with a reasonably priced tank that can do well against any division. For airplanes, you really only need fighters and close air support, and here are some early and mid-war designs. For fighters, you want the best single engine you can get, the best machine guns, so you'll generally go from quad light MGs on the early models to heavy MGs on the later ones. Then you want some range with extra fuel tanks and a heavy MG turret. Keep in mind that on the 36 fighter, you will have to remove the turret as you put in the heavy MGs further on. The 1940 model is super similar. You have 3 heavy MGs up top, extra fuel tanks, and a heavy MG turret. If you're playing as France or the UK, which means if you're swimming in rubber, you can slap on self-sealing fuel tanks as well. As for 1936 CAS or close air support, I've gone with a single small bomb bay, engine 2, extra range, and dive brakes. The 1940 model has 2 small bomb bays, a single engine 3, dive brakes, armor, and extra range. Now I've gone over the top in air defense since you'll likely be sending the CAS while you're still fighting enemy fighters, meaning that you'll get better survivability. If you beat the enemy air force and are not contested in the sky, you can make the CAS cheaper by removing air defense modules. Now let's see how we can build a military-industrial complex powerful enough to be the source of conspiracy theories for years to come. There's a simple rule of thumb that works like a charm in single player. Build up infrastructure in areas with enough free factory slots, then proceed to fill up those slots with military factories. I've yet to see anyone lose in single player because they built mills too early, but plenty of rage quits are a result of people still building civs when tanks show up at their doorstep. Yes, civilian factories help you build more stuff later, but if you're dead, you just don't get it later. Prioritize military factories. They make guns, guns make armies, armies make conquests, and conquests grow your industry. A vicious cycle, but of the good kind. Of course, some of you will say that countries like the US or the Soviets benefit from building early civs since they joined the war later. That's true, but railroading yourself to a historical timeline can be a handicap and is not a requirement. If you're new and trying to get your first win as the USA or the Soviets, it will be much easier to intervene in the war early and crush the Germans before they conquer Europe, rather than waiting for them to snowball. As another great loading screen quote says,
"A good plan, violently executed now, is better than a perfect plan next week."
Get a few W's under your belt and then go for that historically accurate game if you feel like it. Now I'll show you just how easily you can estimate how much equipment is needed for your armies. We'll take Germany as an example. Now in the 1936 start date, we already start with a full infantry army and a few extra tank and motorized divisions. Let's say that we need to create 3 more infantry armies by the time we attack Poland. We'll go to the starting division template, which works just fine if you leave it like that, but you can also tweak it with the templates that I showed you earlier. After we make our changes, we could see just how much manpower and equipment a single division needs in the equipment costs tab. So one single infantry division needs 10,600 men, about 20 anti-air guns, 12 artillery pieces, just above 1,000 infantry equipment, and 30 support equipment. Okay, so we need to create 3 more infantry armies. That's 72 divisions in total, meaning that to fully equip them, we need to multiply the amounts in the equipment cost tab of a single division by 72. That tells us how much we need to produce. To be safe, I would go for 10-15% higher than these calculations, so we have a bit of a reserve for the equipment lost from training your troops and fighting battles in the beginning. And of course you can do this for every other equipment type and division template you plan on building. So let's say you want 5 additional tank divisions for Poland, then you make your templates, you figure out what type of equipment you need and the equipment costs, and you make sure that the many military factories you're building are distributed well. That's all there's to it. Now, one little tip here is whenever you're lacking equipment, you can go to the logistics tab and hover your mouse over the stockpile area, which is kind of like the little house icon here. This shows how many days it will take to fix your stockpile deficit with the current number of factories assigned to producing the equipment. We also need to talk about research. This is a major aspect of the game, although slightly less important than having a big army and enough equipment. So when it comes to research, the technologies you should go for are largely dependent on the country you're playing. Countries like the USA, UK, and Germany start with 4 research slots and even get more of them rather easily. They also have a large enough starting industrial base to expand and produce whatever they research. By comparison, let's say less powerful miner like France has a lower number of starting factories and research slots, so for them making enough equipment for a capable tank force, air force, and infantry armies becomes a lot harder by the time the Germans attack them. Overall, the best research advice I can give to new players is to take a good look at what you're working with. Production and construction technologies are more or less a must for everyone, so is infantry equipment, but beyond that, before you research something, ask yourself if you have the capacity to produce it in large enough numbers to make a difference on the battlefield. Even research speed is optional, as computing machines are only beneficial if you've already have 4 research slots, or you can unlock them rather easily. Again, you can find all of this info and even more tips in my Single Player 101 cheat sheet that's free for a limited time if you sign up for my Patreon with a trial account. So, to wrap up everything, the key to success in hoi4 single player is building mills, spending political power in a smart way, and overwhelming your enemies with numbers. Now, if you want to learn how to effectively use the big armies you will build thanks to this guide, check out my other beginner combat video. As always, a like and subscribe will be appreciated if you enjoyed the content, and I'll see you next time, partner.